Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sisters. Welcome to our new episode today. We have invited, Azra and I have invited a special guest, Yasmin. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing this wrong.
Just
Jendel?
pronounce it with a Gendel, yeah, just pronounce it with a
Randall, there you
heavy,
go. It's
heavy G.
kind of like
Yes.
Serbian. D and J is pronounced as J.
Yes.
Sister Yasmin Jandal, she's mindfulness coach, and I'm very careful. We're so careful into like who we invite in the podcast. And Subhanallah, after talking to Sister Yasmin a few months ago, I got to know her, and she's a beautiful soul. But not just that, her message is beautiful. If you want to find more grounding in your life, in your parenting while you're homeschooling, subhanAllah, she has some tips that you will not let go. So without further ado, I don't want to take this, we never want to take the podcast really long. We like to keep it short and on point. Sister Azra and I are very eager to host Sister Yasmin. And Sister Yasmin, welcome. Welcome today.
Barakallahu feek. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be here. It's such an honor. Thank you.
I appreciate you taking your time, even though our time difference is like 6 hours difference, and I appreciate it very much. But without taking a long time, let's dive into the topic of mindfulness. And we do have few questions, Azra and I, that we would like you to help us and elaborate more on them. Number one is, how does mindfulness play a role in managing the challenges of homeschooling and motherhood?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is
it's such a beautiful question. It really is. But first of all, I'd just like to say to my dear sisters that, I just want to acknowledge the immense dedication and love that they put into nurturing and, their children while undertaking the responsibility of the education at home. SubhanAllah, it really is a remarkable journey that they're on, especially considering, the unique challenges and responsibilities of being a mother while also homeschooling. Alhamdulillah, and as a mindfulness life coach, I emphasize the critical role of being present and conscious. It really plays a critical role in being a mother and a home educator. So going back to your question, Saniha, it's so beautiful. How does mindfulness play a role in managing the challenges of homeschooling and motherhood? First of all, mindfulness. We can swap the word over with awareness. Okay, and then we can even translate into Arabic of taqwa, awareness of Allah. But on our day-to-day roles, it actually means emotional regulation. And when our children are emotionally regulated, it's actually the first predictor for success. And there's been a Harvard research, and it was a huge research, over 1,000 people over like 32 years, and they were just looking for what makes people successful. And obviously, in dunya matters of financial success and health and meaningful relationships and that sort of stuff. And what they discovered, they were quite shocked actually, because it wasn't anything to do with background or IQ, or how rich the parents were. It had nothing to do with any of that. What they discovered was that it's actually to do with emotional regulation and how people can cope under pressure. So mindfulness is a powerful tool in navigating the complexities of homeschooling and motherhood, and it allows us to stay present in the moment, reducing stress and enhancing our ability to respond rather than react to challenges. By cultivating mindfulness practices such as, just a simple meditation, deep breathing exercises, we create a space for patience, understanding, and empathy in our interactions with our children. And that's so important because the way the brain works, and because there is so much science behind mindfulness meditation, the way the brain works, if we are stressed, whether that's, if we feel threatened, whether that's perceived or real, the brain is going to work differently to how to how it is if we feel relaxed. So if we feel stressed and we feel in danger, it's going to be our amygdala that's going to be taking over, and that's the fight or flight response part of the brain. So it just means that we are alert and information will not reach the prefrontal cortex. So if your children are stressed, they're not really learning to the best ability. And I've had teachers before, like clients, and it's actually so beautiful. They go into the class and they teach their students these some deep breathing exercises, and it's changed the whole dynamics of the classroom. Because if you can imagine children going into a classroom and they've got all the worries and the stress of coming from home, they could have been arguing, they could have been like no food at for breakfast, like so many different issues. And of course children perceive things differently to adults. And she my clients used to do these breathing exercises with her students, and there was less bullying. They were able to focus more, so their grades were higher. It was just very beautiful, alhamdulillah. So yes, mindfulness does play a very important role in managing the challenges of home educating.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, I very much like what you said about emotional regulation and trying to be present. And it sometimes when we kind of I feel like that, and I met many homeschooling moms and moms, Muslim sisters in general, like we feel when the rise of the anxiety and frustration, for example, when we try to compare us with others, or when we have some unrealistic expectations in motherhood or even in homeschooling journey. So Sister Yasmin, what do you think? How can mothers avoid the trap of comparison and unrealistic expectations in this motherhood journey or homeschooling journey? Inshallah.
Yeah, that's really super important, because it adds a lot of pressure. Because as well, if you think what's happening with social media, we're actually comparing ourselves to somebody who is looking their best. They seem like they're feeling their best. Everything seems absolutely wonderful in their life. And we're actually comparing them to us feeling maybe really down, really overwhelmed, anxious, and it's incomparable. Okay, so um, having an acceptance of what is, and also gently acknowledging realistic expectations, are cornerstones of mindfulness. Because like comparisons, they can be so detrimental to homeschooling mothers' confidence. And it's actually the uniqueness of each family's journey, and setting realistic expectation is absolutely key in our journey. And I would really encourage mothers to focus on their strengths and celebrate progress rather than perfection, and remember that their path in educating their children is as unique as their family. And when I look back at mine, I mean, my children now are like 27, 24, 21, and 18. And I home educated their early years, and I home educated their sort of later years. But alhamdulillah, we were living in a Muslim country in between, so I was able to send them to like the Saudi school to learn Arabic and Quran and all that, which was wonderful. But my eldest son, honestly, I taught him to read when he was 6 years old, read and write, and he's a very intelligent boy. But he used to disappear after that. I'd say, "Come, Yusuf, let's we need to it's reading time and it's time to study." He would do this disappearing act, and I would just do this for years. And even when he was at school, and it was very hard in those days, they have exams like every single month, and he used to run. He's like, "No, I'm not studying." He absolutely refused to sit down and study, and he used to run, and he used to get 10 out of 10. My husband, he said to me, "You know what, let him run." And I mean, he's grown up. Obviously he's like 24 now, and he's like a senior engineer and a project manager. So sometimes we can really stress out of those formal years. Yes, there are certain things that we do have certain expectations, but don't stress out. Really do not. Each person has their own path, and even as adults, we can look back, and we can join the dots of where we are today. And a lot of stuff is not necessarily what we were taught at school or home or anybody. A lot of it is to do with mimicking very good behavior. And obviously, we have our beautiful deen in which to educate our children, which is so super important. And again, that's where emotional regulation comes in, and doing things that create peace and tranquility in the house. Like I remember with my kids, if they did a bad deed, I'd say it's okay, rush to follow up with a good deed, and these sort of things. So yes, please do not compare yourself to anybody else's home educating journey, because it really is such a unique journey to everybody.
SubhanAllah, that's mind-blowing for many of us who have been homeschooling for many years, because when you look at the social media, when you look at the media in general, you see, you see many posts about these moms doing so many things, and you're like, well, how can I do that? I'm just too occupied, I'm too busy, I am unable to do these things. But yet, when you think deeper, you have children, you have your own life, and you can create your own bubble. But yet, we're
Mm,
so occupied with social media, especially. I have to blame it because,
mm,
it's flooded with information, and some of the information, I'd say, is unrealistic, is just for us to look at, but it's really questionable if they're actually practicing that or not. But not even talking about that, it's like, how can we create our own bubble and flourish within our bubble? So the question that I have is, homeschooling journey is not easy, it's not meant to be easy. So how can
mm.
a mom create that mindfulness while she's on this journey of homeschooling? And I just want to point out that I have a group of almost 30,000 women that I'm an admin to. And just last week, I asked them a question about how do you keep um, how do you self-regulate when you are at your highest peak of anger? And
Mm,
subhanallah, they spilled their hearts. And I
mm.
think this podcast will help them so much to just come back to their selves and ground them, and even answer a lot of their questions that they're posting right now. So, Sister Yasmin, my question is, how do you create mindfulness around homeschooling routine?
Yeah, that is such a beautiful question, and so important. And the first thing I would say, Sneha, is enjoy your children. And I mean, I don't know what came across me when I was, when my children were young, but I was absolutely determined to enjoy them, and that meant sometimes compromising on their studies. Do you understand? Um, I mean, we used to like study really hard, and then there's another homeschooling family that I know from here, and Allah Barik, the sister, she has 8 children, and she was right. She had the routine during the week, but during the most of the year. But when it came to the summer, the areas she lived have had so many activities, outside activities, that for the whole like 6 or 8 weeks, the children didn't even pick up a pen. They were doing like judo and canoeing and rock climbing and all of this sort of stuff. So on like a daily routine, we can integrate mindfulness practices into the homeschooling routine, and it's really super important. It's actually very seamless as well, because mindfulness activities can actually be done even if we're super busy. And because let me just explain the definition of mindfulness. So mindfulness means paying attention on purpose in the present moment with kindness and curiosity, non-judgmentally. Okay, so let me repeat that, and you try to comprehend your home educating. Okay, so mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment with kindness and curiosity, non-judgmentally. So even we can start the day with maybe a brief meditation, or incorporate some mindfulness activities into the lessons, such as nature walks or gratitude exercises. Right, these can really sort of they can foster a very serene and focused learning environment. So make sure the environment is calming, because when your children are calm, they will learn better. And additionally, of course, modeling mindfulness in our own actions and reactions positively influences our children's behavior and mindset. And I see, even with my children, they are very well emotionally regulated. They've got Arab blood, so they can be really hot-headed, but they can like process information. If you know what I mean. I don't want to go too deep into a story because it's going to sort of distract, but there was a situation where we came back to London, and I mean, my neighbor in his early 50s, one night he came back very, very, very drunk, very abusive and racist. And my son was outside talking to his Bengali friend. It was about midnight. It must have been one night, maybe during Ramadan. And the neighbor was very, very abusive and very racist. And I mean, my son could, I mean, that big guy, you know, they do bodybuilding and everything. He could have just like hit him and he would have fallen to the ground. But he thought, he's my neighbor. Oh my God, my mum, you know, oh, my big brother will get involved as well. So his brain allowed him to process the information and think about the consequences. And this is what we want for our children. Um, you know, to have that emotional regulation where they're not really sort of fired up. They have the ability to process information and instead of react habitually, which can sometimes, you know, even for us as adults, it can be quite harmful. But what we want to do is take a deep breath. And honestly, just taking a deep breath, it's so amazing. It can change our state of mind and relax our body. So if you're feeling stressed, feeling anxious, take a couple of deep breaths. And what you do, you focus on, so you inhale through your nose and you focus on the physical sensations of the air as it goes through your nostrils, the back of your throat, and then you exhale through your mouth. And there's so much science behind this as well. And just exhale through your mouth and allow your shoulders to drop, allow yourself to relax. And then take another deep inhale, maybe this time focusing your attention on your chest, gently rising as you inhale and hold. And then as you exhale, bring your focus of attention on your chest, gently falling again. And this can have a huge impact on our, you know, on our mental and physical well-being. Because one thing we're oxygenating, all right, and every single cell it gets oxygenated, which then all our systems work more efficiently. So again, this is, you know, the science behind it, that these mindfulness and meditation activities are like hugely beneficial when we practice them regularly, because it really is the accumulation of practicing where we can actually reap the benefits. But the benefits are endless. If you were to Google benefits of mindfulness and meditation, there's one website comes up with like 100 different benefits. So obviously I'm not going to go into that now, but I would suggest that you know, our mothers do go and just research it a little bit, because it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, nature walks, gratitude, this is all encompassed in mindfulness. And of course, you know, it seamlessly overlaps with our beautiful Deen as well. So alhamdulillah.
Definitely, I wanted to just add to that is how our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he encouraged us to do morning and evening adhkar and the benefits of it. That when I started incorporating that as well with my family, it's been part of our practice for many years now, but I found so much tranquility, so much more than before. Before it was like very stressful and hectic, and I didn't I didn't get up in the morning with remembrance of Allah, which is something I should have done, but I wasn't, it wasn't in my practice, it wasn't in our practice. And then when we changed that and we made it like the minute we got up, we do dhikr in the morning and especially at night, the evening adhkar. I feel like there has been a tremendous calmness throughout
Yes.
the day, and also like pointing out on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who reminded us when we are super angry, and you know, we as moms with many kids, we know we can get to that point, and how he, beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told us that when you're super angry, you can sit down, and if you still feel angry, lay down until you calm down. And these are also the practices that are right before our eyes that we can incorporate on daily basis. Of course, with breathing, I have done that, Sister Yasmin, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I feel like, um, you know, my brain feels free, if I can even say that, because when I'm angry, my brain feels like toxic, like very congested. But when
Yes.
I take those deep breaths, it just feels like every cell is rejuvenated, if I can
Yes.
say, subhanallah. So it's been a beautiful journey of mine from like since I started to have kids, and like to just learn this journey is beautiful, because you find so many things along the way and that can make you a better parent. And that's the whole reason of this podcast, is just opening these roadways for sisters to actually incorporate and just enjoy the journey of parenting. mashallah.
Yes, yeah, it's beautiful. I've worked with many of my clients have been home educating mums, and when they work with me over my 8-week period, um, something that's just so amazing is we can actually break um, like those sort of toxic hereditary behaviors that because our parents were um, like behaving that way or shouting. Mothers that shout will get kids that shout, right? And it's not necessarily the one who shouts the loudest is the winner, or their opinion is better. So it's really better, like, if everybody just takes a deep breath. We can't fight fire with fire. We want our homes to be very tranquil. And so, the deep breathing exercises are amazing. And even with adhkar saniha, it is a form of meditation because we're choosing what to focus on. So my definition of meditation is becoming familiar with what is, but also choosing what to focus on. And so that's our prayer when we're praying. That's our adhkar when we're saying our adhkar, like really put some meaning into it. And this as well will help to like quieten our sometimes chaotic mind, because we have the ability, it's called metacognition. So we have the ability to think about what we're thinking about. So there was one client that I had, and her whole family was saying to her, "Oh, you're depressed because it's because of your iman." It's nothing to do with our iman. It's because we don't have the skills. So she would read the Quran, but her mind would be thinking about all other lots of other things, like traumatic childhood and worrying about the future. Should she have kids herself and all this sort of stuff that there's so many thoughts going through her mind. But when she trained her mind with mindfulness skills, she found that she was able to read the Quran and benefit from it, like by really focusing on. She would notice when her mind wandered off, and then she was able to gently bring it back again. And that's so beautiful when we really feel that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like in all our acts of ibadah. Because sometimes we get in that doing mode, I call it, instead of just being. And I remember those days, especially when the kids were young and I was home educating and stuff. I felt like my mind was tuned into 100 different radio stations. I don't know if you can relate to that. And I didn't even know it was a thing that I could just tune into one radio station or quieten my mind. And the first time I did that, I was shocked about how quiet my environment was, and that all that noise was actually coming from my head. So I was like, well, if I can do that once, I can do it again, and I can do it at will. Which is so beautiful. We have like the skills that we can calm ourselves, and that's beautiful, and break as well those sort of hereditary behaviors that we take from generation to generation.
Beautiful. Everything what you said, it's like really full of really lots of gems there. And I'll go back to that what you said at the beginning. The advice to mothers, the young mothers, like enjoy your kids. Now, when we are like older, we have kids that are 18, 20, and older than that. um, I many times I think about that actually, and if I would give an advice to myself and my younger version, I would say the same thing: enjoy your kids. But when I was younger, I would think like, how would I enjoy kids? There's so much work to do, right? And there's so many things that I have to think about. So when you're saying about mindfulness, to be present in the moment, I think this is something really, really deep and something really important. I can understand now, and I see kind of like why I was not able to do it, right? Because I did not know what I should focus on. So these two things, what you said, that all the time you try to be present in the moment and try to kind of always have on your mind where the focus is. This is really like priceless advice.
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
and of course.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. As well, I mean, Islamically, we need to really be, intentional with our actions as well. So when we have that intentionality and that presence and that consciousness about, what is happening in and around us, it is very, very powerful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So I just want to add to it, like, yes, young mothers, they feel overwhelmed by responsibilities. Young children, husband, the house, and everything. And then how they can uh, be present in the moment, or what would be like some steps that we can share with them, help them to, always have that focus or set priorities? What is more, yes, what is more important in that moment? So please, Sister Yasmin, share with us some
Yeah,
advice.
that's so beautiful. And the answer really is, I mean, I could talk about mindfulness for like days, to be honest with you, right? And inshallah, I will have the opportunity to really share some skills with, with our wonderful mothers, that they can incorporate during the day. But what I would share with you today is present moment awareness means using your five senses to bring you into the present moment. So you can do this with your kids. And even if they're getting a little agitated and stuff like this, is like, ask them, what can you see? What can you smell? What can you hear? What can you taste? What can you feel? And us as adults, so if we've got that racing mind and there's lots of, that inner critic and negative chatter, then if we just say to ourselves, okay, let me just focus on my feet, what we're doing, we're reprogramming our minds, and we're replacing old neural pathways with new empowering ones. So what happens is you actually lower the volume of that inner critic and you become present, because we can't be in two different time zones at the same time. So when we're present, we're not regretting the past or feeling guilty or feeling shame. We're being present, and we can't, there's no sort of worrying about the future. Just be present, use your five senses. And I've had my home educating clients, like go to the beach, and they're sitting there, and she sent me a photo one day, and her two children are just like looking at pebbles, because mindfulness, there's so many different mindfulness activities. So what I teach my clients is like mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful observing, mindful listening, mindful arrivals. Like mindfulness comes into, this is what I say, like you can practice even if you're super busy, even if you're washing up, okay? And just take notice of like what you can see, what you can hear, feel, and smell. Even when we're doing wudu, like instead of having that racing mind, just take note of like the noise of the water as it goes down the drain, the noise of water as you're swishing it around your mouth, how the water feels when, on your skin as you're washing your arms, how your hair feels in your head as you're wiping it over. Can you smell this, any soap that's near you? How does the towel feel? That's present moment awareness. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I feel? So when we're using our five senses, it's a gateway to the present moment, and we're not thinking about the past or the present. So this is the one biggest tip that I would, well, there were two actually. So the first one would be the breathing exercise, and the second one would be like present moment awareness. And even if your children, like just look into their eyes, like notice their smile. And this is what gives us like a quality of life, when we can really appreciate and be present with those small things that we sometimes miss because we're so stressed. I hope that's helped. Present moment awareness, using your
Yeah,
five senses.
yeah, subhanallah. Because as I said, I have this group that's almost 30,000 women who homeschool, many of them homeschool. And number one concern they have is like when they're so angry, they end up being unjust, knowingly unjust to their child. And at
Yes.
the end of the days, a lot of times their tears come down their faces watching their children sleep full of regrets. So,
Yes.
it looks like something you would advise is, be mindful when you're super angry and you're about to punish this child with a timeout or do this or do that. Instead, be mindful. Did this child really have an intention to hurt your feelings, to misbehave intentionally? Or maybe they don't have proper skills to still obey your orders, right?
Yes, yeah. That's really super important. And what mindfulness skills allows us to do, Saneha, it allows us to be the observer of the situation, as opposed to being emotionally entangled in it. So I think that's what you're saying exactly. Like, what do you do when you're super angry? And believe me, I've been there as well, right? But when that was before I had these mindfulness skills. But there's many things that we could do. We can turn towards the bodily, the physical sensations of that anger. Like instead of sort of pointing it at the child, like turn it toward yourself, which is something we don't normally do. Obviously, it's not a habit to do that. Actually turn towards and say, okay, where am I physically feeling that anger? And again, what you're doing, you're reprogramming your mind and you're creating new neural pathways, because you've broken a link of the anger. Okay, and this works with lots of different things. So it works with anxiety, it works with having the urge to keep checking our phone. It works with eating just for the sake of eating, and definitely with anger issues. We become the observer instead of being emotionally entangled, and that is really powerful.
Wow. That is actually super powerful. It hit me right now because, when I have feelings, I really never think about where is it coming from exactly physically too.
Mm,
So it's
mm.
definitely something I would like to put into practice, inshallah.
Yes, give
Thank you.
it a color, give it a shape, give it a
Mm,
name.
yeah,
And again, what you're doing, you're taking the emphasis off of the situation and you're reprogramming your mind.
yeah. SubhanAllah. Well, we're reaching towards the end, and
Mm,
I want to thank you so much. We like to keep these podcasts very short but super beneficial. Sister Yasmin, you have just given us a lot of information that's so beneficial, and we can put it into practice now, like right now.
mm,
And I would
yes.
like to share with the sisters that Sister Yasmin has an ebook, which we're going to share that down below in the comments as well. Inshallah, Sister Yasmin is going to have future events which will advertise in the group as well as in our other platforms in our social media. So please follow her. Sister Yasmin, can you share a little bit how people can find you, um, and what platforms to follow you?
Okay, yeah, barakallahu fiik. And I hope they find the ebook very beneficial. So you can find me on Facebook. My strongest platform is actually LinkedIn. I really do prefer LinkedIn. My weakest link is Instagram. But I'd like to also mention that I'm opening the doors for my membership on Sunday, and the doors will only be open for 5 days. And members will have access to my amazing 6-week mindful introduction to mindfulness course, and we will go through that together. So there'll be weekly live Q&As. That 6-week course, I normally sell it for £197. And then my membership is only £21, and founding members actually get that as a fixed price forever. For being a founding member. So it's actually a no-brainer to join the membership. And I will be sharing so many different skills, deep breathing exercises, meditations that will help to calm and restore and replenish, and so many of the mindfulness activities as well that will help us to reduce stress and anxiety and help us to have more meaningful relationships, because that's what we want. And I see now, sorry, I don't want to go on too long, but I see that now my children are older, we have a very good relationship. Sometimes, obviously I have to still be big boss woman, and put them in their place a little bit. But we laugh and we joke and we really enjoy each other's companies. And, we're very respectful to each other. And these are the skills that are really, really important. So I would just emphasize again, enjoy your children, be present with them, have some fun, because even the fun things are very educational. They really are. So when you feel that you need a break, incorporate that into your home education routine. Even like exercising, going for walks and stuff like this, writing a gratitude journal. There's so many things we can do. And I will stop now, but I would love to share my mindfulness masterclass, inshallah, one day. Yes. So yeah, you can
Inshallah,
find,
we can
yes. So
share the course as well down below in the comments, so people can enroll whoever chooses to do so, inshallah.
okay, yes, barakallah fiik.
Mashallah, I would just encourage everybody to go ahead and invest. My kids they were young, like 15 years ago. We did not have the same opportunities as young mothers today, because all of these things that you need in order to succeed, like to really enjoy your kids, really be present in the moment, build great relationship. As Sister Yasmin said, this is the most important thing. I agree with it. That's what we want. We want to keep our families together, enjoy our families, have a great relationships. The next advice to myself as a younger version would be to invest in learning those skills. I did not have that opportunity. I didn't know that I can learn. Actually, I didn't even know these are the skills that can be learned. So this is really great opportunity. Sister Yasmin is offering her help. There's a great knowledge, great advices there. So I would just like to encourage everybody, invest and take opportunity. Thank you, Sister Yasmin.
Barakallah fiik.
Thank
It's been
you.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum
Wa
salam.
alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum